Hi there, I'm Elisipka, and this is the Apatros Review. Now in this episode, this is actually the second episode I'm doing on my birthday, my 37th birthday on the 21st of March 2022. And the film that I'm reviewing also has its anniversary on this date. I'll get into that momentarily. So, by the way, I'm giving my birthday wishes to everyone else who's born on the 21st of March. Hope you have a good birthday. Now, the film I'm reviewing here, for my second run for this day, is this Day of the Dead Bloodline, a 2017 zombie film remake directed by Hector Hernandez Vikins. Got a bit of a sore throat, so excuse me if that happens. And this film was also written by Mark Tonda, Ryan Lars Jacobson. This is actually the second of a total of 3 remakes of the George Romero 1985 classic, which is one of my favorite films. And the third one remake is actually a TV series that came out last year. And I already reviewed the 2008 remake before. Now, the cast includes Sophie Skelton, Jonathan Sheech, I think, Marcus Vanko, Jeff Gum, and Lenian Blankenship. Now, the DVD comes from Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, the Australian DVD, and it's a single-A disc, 235 anamorphic widescreen, English 5.1 448 kilobyte range. It is region 4, so if you're buying this from Australia and you live anywhere but Australia, you're going to need a multi-regional DVD player. And it's got English subtitles, and it runs for about 86 minutes 20 seconds. The only supplement is the behind the scenes. I should point out that in Australia, this is actually rated R18+, which is basically like the Australian NC-17, or like the NC-18. For high-impact horror themes and violence and blood and gore. There is technically some nudity in this, but it's only... I'll explain that at the end. And this film actually... This is a co-production between Bulgaria and the United States. It's actually originally a theatrical film, but in some places, but also in many parts of the world on direct-to-video. It premiered in Vietnam on the 29th of December 2017, as its first place was released. And then in the United States had its theatrical premiere on the 5th of January 2018. And then on the 11th of January 2018, it was in Ukraine. And then in Australia, it came out direct-to-video on this on the 14th of October 2018. And then on the 21st of March 2020, on the same day I turned 35 and did my 35th birthday episode then, this premiered in Spain. So this is actually the second anniversary of the Spanish premiere of this on the internet. Now, shortly before the dawn of 2022, in fact, actually quite a few minutes before 2022 came around, I reviewed the 2008 remake of Day of the Dead. The third film, the 2008 remake was the first remake of George Romero's third film in the saga of the Dead, what I consider to be his ultimate masterpiece in Romero's zombie universe. The 2008 remake, however, was as bad as it gets. A B-grade done purely for the money zombie schlocker made in Eastern Europe at a time when that part of the world was producing practically all of the world's stock of bad B-grade action flicks and horror movies, as well as doing the unthinkable and giving a world pass as prime Steven Seagal a platform for his bad action theatrics, as he made literally dozens of infamously crappy action B-grades over the course of the 2000s. The direct-to-video market was also oversaturated with a shitload of cheap sequels to classic movies that were essentially intellectual property flips. If you think Hollywood was doing IP flips in the past few years, believe me, they were doing in the 2000s the worst. Now, the 2008 remake made a rather negligible impact on the horror community. Some people liked it, but most people weren't really impressed. And personally, I thought it was one of the worst remakes ever made, and was practically forgotten about after a few years, as well as the rather ill-advised Day of the Dead 2 Contagion, which was an absolute shitfest along the lines of the 2008 remake, having come out a short time beforehand. I haven't seen that film, but I heard it's pretty damn bad. Then all mention of remakes of Day of the Dead pretty much went silent for a time. Then, nearly a decade passed by. Around the time the world heard that Romero himself had passed away, there was some word at Millennium Films, the studio that produced the 2008 remake, as well as many of the other bad direct-to-video actions of the 2000s, had done the work on another remake. Most people didn't hear this and were thus unaware. Then by the end of 2017, the film came out. Most people had been caught by surprise. I know I was, since I only heard of the existence of Dead Bloodline a couple of days before I encountered this DVD in the store. This was also at a time when every video store in my area had closed down for good, even the local blackjack DVD dealer. So the local shopping mall's JBI5 store was the only place to buy DVDs from then on. And the speed the DVDs came out did a fair bit to unnerve me, because I was certainly not expecting something like this. At least not so soon after the death of the zombie master himself. I do remember at the time feeling somewhat dismayed at the fact that the same studio that made what I considered one of the worst zombie remakes of all time had the nerve to release a second botched job so soon after Romero's death. Something that was distasteful to say the least. Anyway, I bought the DVD, it was reasonably priced, and added it to my collection. The film is set 5 years after the human race gets its ass kicked by fast-moving zombies. At a small military bunker turned refugee camp, the camp's sole doctor, Zoe Parker, realizes that the camp has dangerously low supplies of antibiotics. To obtain more, the tight-knit squad of soldiers at the base have to do a raid at the hospital where Zoe started as a med student, and around a mediocre one at that, where they find the supplies they needed. But a person from Zoe's past, a bloke named Max, who was being researched on for his unusual antibody count before the zombies arrived, was turned into a zombie on the first night of the outbreak, but his above-average immunity resulted in his brain and half his internal organs staying relatively alive, the result being an intelligent zombie. Now, I've seen something like this before with the Children of the Living Dead, but here, at least here, it has a more plausible explanation. Max sneaks into the base and pretty soon gets caught, where his blood might prove the answer to the zombie problem, with the idea that Zoe can produce a vaccine to prevent any more zombies out of the survivors. But Zoe feels disgusted at the fact that the blood of the man who tried to rape her on the night that the whole zombie shebang started will be in her body. Max, meanwhile, wants Zoe to himself, and to do that, he needs to escape his shackles and also take over the base. Things don't end up too well. Now, to give a completely redundant remake like the Dead Bloodline its due credit, the zombie makeup looks pretty damn good, better than the 2008 remake did, and the makeup on this film's version of Bub, the half-human, half-zombie creep Max, is actually impressive for a change. There isn't as much CGI bullshit in this one, although some of the gore is of the implausibly silly side. The high-pressure arterial jets that burst out whenever some poor human bastard gets turned into a Happy Meal by a hungry zombie is just plain stupid and broke my suspension of disbelief. I'm not one of those critics who despises the casting of 20-somethings for the main cast, who are all 20-somethings at one point or another, but the cast here are not particularly bad. They don't have any sort of special skill, or the written material seems to make the characters stand out. The only actor who actually does the job he was hired for is Jonathan Sheech, or Sheech, I don't know how to pronounce the name, who plays Max. His performance as a human creep with a mysteriously high antibody count in his blood, who gets turned into a living zombie creep, is well on its way to being the best performance in this last movie. Now, Day of the Dead Bloodline is a film that is at least a notch better than the woeful 2008 remake. It's higher than Abomination, but not above redundant cash grab. There's little here that makes any sort of bad goofball logic, so we're thankful for that. I thought the idea that the world's survivors label zombies as rotters instead of zombies is a pretty dumb fucking idea. I'm guessing the writers were trying to be original, but it doesn't work. But the script feels like the writers were just coming up with a standard zombie film script, and that the last rewrite changed some details to make it seem like it was intended to be a remake of Day of the Dead. Not to mention that Krista Campbell, who played an acting role in the 2008 remake, is involved in this film in the producing capacity. Is she really that dedicated to trashing the reputation of the original film? But only in a superficial sense. If you change the title to something else and prevented any mention of the fact that it is a remake to the majority that watch this, the audience would be highly unlikely to peg this as a remake. While for only those who have an extreme acuity in the zombie genre will be suspicious of this. Now, the film has nearly nothing to recommend it to the casual zombie fan, and even hardcore zombie fans will be keeping their distance from this. Day of the Dead Bloodline sits on a D, 2 out of 10, rung of my grading ladder. The film is pretty damn bad, but not unwatchable. It does have almost nothing to recommend it for. I mean, the gore is reasonable. Sorry. The gore is, I mean, it's reasonable for the budget. At least they didn't do any of that CGI bullshit they did with the 2008 remake. And the story makes reasonable sense, but otherwise It's done with no soul. I mean, George Romero's original was one of the best zombie films ever made, and it actually had a heart and intelligence and a soul. The 2008 remake was just terrible. This one only slightly better. So pretty much a bad film. Now for going Nudity. Playing moderate gore effects with those ridiculous high-pressure arterial jets making an appearance. Seriously, where did the producers get that bullshit idea from? I've seen quite a few films where the zombie bites on somebody and it's basically a high-pressure jet, like something out of the Takashi Miike film. At least with Takashi Miike, he does it like for his own weird way it works, but a normal film doesn't. So this high-pressure arterial jet is ridiculous. And the only nudity here is actually non-show, as Sophie Skelton has a very chaste, mild sexing with a soldier boyfriend while she is topless, but the camera is angled at the right angle to avoid seeing her breasts. That being said, the Monk as maintenance man is seen reading a porno mag right before Max eats him, the boobs visible in the mag's centerfolds. Of course it's at a distance, but anyway. Now for the DVD. The DVD comes from Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, which is to be expected, as Sony issue pretty much every film from the Millennium stable, with a few exceptions like the 2008 remake, that one being issued for the rejigged Force Entertainment, onto the DVD market. Quality-wise, the DVD looks great, but for those out there who prefer vibrant color palettes in their films, will be somewhat disappointed as this film sticks with the formula of color temperatures as cold as a corpse. In other words, lots of greys and dark drab colors. There were no issues with the picture to speak of, while the English file one is decent enough for the exercise. The solitary English subtitles being excellent transcribed to spoken word. That being said, I found subtitles signposting for the musical score somewhat hilarious. I mean, things like the putting brackets dark music or strange. Now, the only supplement is the standard electronic press kit style behind the scenes, something that's common in many of these films, many of these DVDs. And like I said, this film, it's here in Australia, it's restricted to people 18 and over because of high-impact horror themes of violence and blood and gore. And if you want to watch this outside of Australia, you're going to need a multi-regional DVD player. It's a bad movie, but decent-looking DVDs. If you're a fan of this film, if you aren't, that's fine. And pretty much this, in Australia here, this is pretty much the only way you're going to get it. Okay. So that's it for Day of the Dead Bloodline. Gets a D, 2 out of 10. It's bad. Not terrible, but just bad. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Sorry about the cough because basically I have a cold at the moment. And I hope you guys are enjoying, for those who are there who have their birthdays today, happy birthday and hope you enjoy yourselves. And yeah, take it easy guys and see ya.